We had some truly incredible outbreaks of white feminism that we wanted to bring to you here. The first is, of course, we've been tracking the trial of Elizabeth Holmes, former head of Theranos. Looks like she lied to everyone, investors, customers, et cetera, about what her supposed breakthrough technology could actually do. Made her this young female billionaire, everybody loved her, and now that all came crashing down and she's in fact, facing trial for the alleged crimes that she committed. Well, it was only a matter of time before someone decided that all of this had nothing to do with the fact that she committed massive amounts of fraud and lied to everyone, but that she's a woman. That's the real problem here. Let's throw this op-ed up on the screen from the New York Times. The Elizabeth Holmes trial is a wake-up call for sexism in tech. This is written by Ellen Pao, who used to be the head, wasn't she at Reddit?
Yeah, she was the CEO of Reddit.
That's what I thought.
When she got fired, she also claimed sexism. So
yeah.
There's a full circle element.
Right, indeed. So she has an interest in perpetuating this narrative here. But she basically says that, and there is some truth to the fact that this fake it till you make it culture is endemic in Silicon Valley, and that it's populated with a bunch of liars who think effectively anything is justified if it is in service of getting their revolutionary technology to market so they can transform the world, et cetera, et cetera. But there is a big difference with Elizabeth Holmes, which is that when a search engine doesn't work the way that it's exactly advertised or the algorithm isn't quite where you want it to be, you don't have people's literal lives at stake. Whereas she was portraying this to the public, they were relying on these blood tests, and it was all a complete lie, fraud, Potemkin village, where, the tests weren't accurate. They weren't able to do the tests that they claimed they were able to do, and it was just absolutely on a massive scale. I mean, these tests were in Walgreens. This was rolled out across the country with much fanfare, and she knew that there was a massive gulf between what the public was being told and the actual reality with, potentially really damaging consequences.
That's what this BS doesn't get. Like you said, if an HR enterprise software doesn't work 100% as advertised, okay, my tears cry for the Fortune 500s that will suffer. But when people make medical decisions based on faulty blood work, which happened to many people who are in John Carreyrou's Bad Blood book, they made terrible decisions about their health that had real-world consequences to their bodies based upon the fake test results of this woman and her company, that she knew that it was not in good faith that she put out a product that, happened to fail. It was a direct knowledge of the fraud that she was perpetrating both on Walgreens, her investors, and on these actual people that had consequences. That's the difference, Ellen Pao. And
here's the thing too, is this could have been written by her defense team. Yeah. Because we covered how she's leaning into a Me Too defense. And in this instance, the reverse of, sexism being a problem for Elizabeth Holmes is actually true, is actually the case, because what she relied on, what made her so famous, was that she was this young female tech head.
Exactly.
That's part of why she was able to attract all this investment. Part of why she was on all of these magazine covers, why she was Glamour's Woman of the Year, all of that stuff is because they loved the story of you have this male-dominated field and oh my God, here's this woman who's breaking the mold and she's the female Steve Jobs. She leaned into her identity as a glass ceiling breaking, trailblazing woman. It's part of why she was able to snow people and get away with it for as long as she did. So it's the exact opposite of what Ellen Pao is saying here. She actually used her gender to enrich herself at the expense of, all of these people who relied on this medical data that turned out to be complete trash.
No, and as you point out, this is this is now a new, defense mechanism for the worst people in our society.
Yes. Another example of that.
Yeah.
Jennifer Rubin. who has undergone this weird transformation into now she's like the biggest Biden stan out there, constantly getting retweeted by Ron Klain. Every single article she writes, which apparently sadly get a lot of views, they're just slavishly shilling for the Biden administration.
Biden propaganda.
So Alex Thompson, who's a solid reporter over at Politico, who covers the West Wing there, he was writing a piece about how she's gone through this transformation and how she used to be extremely critical, not just of Barack Obama, but also of Joe Biden specifically under the Obama administration, asking a very obvious question of like, oh, well, that's interesting. I wonder what happened. And let's talk about the change in your positioning here. To which she responded when they reached out for questioning. She sent back this insane email that had in the subject line "off the record," which is not how you actually. They never agreed to be off the record.
It's a dual agreement.
Yeah, you have to on both sides agree. They never agreed for this to be off the record. So Alex Thompson went ahead and published this email, which is quite interesting, in which she claims that the reason they're writing about her is because of sexism and also maybe because she's Jewish.
Right.
I just have to read you this email because this is amazing. How utterly predictable that Politico would run the zillionth hit piece on a prominent woman, especially one candid in her critiques of Politico's hysterical clickbait style of coverage. Notion that I'm polarizing in a newsroom is a take only Politico could come up with by, of course, running around to ask the question in the first place. I trust this Post-superb news site folks spend zero time thinking about me, as is entirely inappropriate. My only surprise is that Sam Stein is a very good journalist, would become enmeshed in such an obviously misogynistic publication. Surely there are finer publications that would have him. And by the way, what a low-class move to do this on Yom Kippur at the last moment.
Yeah, okay.
So
come on.
This has it all. So she's saying like, I mean, this is an interesting story that Alex is pursuing. You used to trash Biden.
Yes.
And that got you a lot of clicks and a lot of prominence. Now it's very convenient for you to praise him. And that gets you a lot of clicks and a lot of love from the White House. And I'm sure a lot of access. She's like their favorite journalist there. Now, what's going on here? And she goes right to, this is all about sexism and misogyny, and maybe also because I'm Jewish.
And Alex points this out. Put his tweet up there on the screen, which is that Ron Klain, the White House chief of staff, has retweeted or mentioned Rubin more than 36 times since mid-May. The White House press team, the DNC, the State Department, and the Vice President's office have all promoted her various columns and tweets from her recently. So his coverage of her as a central defender and propagandist for the Biden administration is in fact a legitimate story. It has nothing to do with her sex. If it was, by the way, people have written several stories about the Lincoln Project and many other types in the same thing. So it's just a low life move in order to make. And yeah, I'm glad she got burned on this email. Actually, well, she wasn't even burned. She thought she was off the record. That's not how it works. If you think you'd be in Washington long enough to know that.
She certainly would be in a position to know that. I mean, the thing that ties these things together here and why this is so enraging to me is like, when you just throw around sexism for everything, it becomes meaningless.
Yeah, it's fake.
It ends up meaning nothing. And another thing is, look at how both of these incredibly powerful and wealthy women are pretending to be in some sort of like state of victimhood and using their gender in order to cover for power, basically. I mean, for Rubin, she's explicitly like protecting the Biden administration here by weaponizing her gender. And then Ellen Pao, on behalf of Elizabeth Holmes, who's also using this at trial, is using it to cover her massive fraud that she allegedly committed. So it's really disgusting when these sorts of legitimate things, racism, sexism, et cetera, identity-based issues are weaponized by the powerful to try to cover for their own failings, protect power, and make themselves out like they're some sort of victim. It's disgusting display, and Jennifer Rubin and Elizabeth Holmes, two key examples here today.
There you go.
All right, guys, enjoy your day. We'll have more for you later. Hey, guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.